Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, Treasure Hunters and Coin Collectors. If you've ever thought a simple nickel couldn't be worth much, think again. Today, we're uncovering the secret behind one of the most fascinating coins in American history, the 1943 Jefferson Nickel. It may look ordinary at first glance, but what lies beneath its surface could be pure gold, metaphorically speaking. Now, before you rush to your coin stash, make sure you watch this video until the very end, because we're going to reveal the extraordinary value this coin can hold, especially if it has one very specific detail. Believe me, if you're lucky enough to find one like this, you might just be holding on to a fortune. Let's rewind the clock to the early 1940s. The world was in chaos, World War II was raging on, and every country, including the United States, was redirecting resources to fuel the war effort. That meant nickel, an important metal used in weapon manufacturing, was in high demand. So, in 1942, the U.S. Mint made a critical decision, to remove the nickel metal from the 5-cent coins and replace it with a unique wartime alloy made of 35% silver, 56% copper, and 9% manganese. This shift gave birth to what collectors call the wartime nickels, and among them, the 1943 Jefferson Nickel stands out for more than just its silver content. While millions were minted, only a fraction have survived the decades in top condition, and even fewer have the rare features that send their value soaring. Let's talk about design. On the front of the coin, we see the familiar profile of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, looking stoically to the left. Flip it over, and there's Monticello, his famous Virginia estate. But here's where it gets interesting. Because of the silver alloy, the coin has a duller, slightly different appearance than regular nickels. And more importantly, there's a mint mark placed above Monticello, a unique characteristic exclusive to wartime nickels. If your coin has a big, bold P, D, or S above Monticello, you're holding one of these special silver wartime nickels. But not all 1943 nickels are created equal. Some of them have minting errors so rare, they make collectors absolutely drool. Let me give you a few examples that are worth keeping an eye out for. One of the most famous errors is the double die. This happens when the die used to strike the coin is slightly misaligned, causing the letters or numbers to appear doubled. On a 1943 Jefferson nickel, a doubled image on the date or on the words Monticello or 5 cents could be a jackpot. Another prized variety is the off-center strike. These coins were improperly struck so that the design is shifted off to one side, leaving part of the coin blank. The more off-center it is, without losing the date, the more valuable it becomes. And then there's the overstruck mint marks or repunched mint marks, where the letter above Monticello appears to have been punched twice or more, creating a blurry or shadowed look. These tiny details can take a coin from a few bucks to a few thousand in the blink of an eye, but what really sends values through the roof? Condition. Collectors look for what's called MS grades, mint state. A 1943 Jefferson nickel graded MS 65 or above, especially with full steps on Monticello, is a collector's dream. These full steps mean the coin was struck perfectly, with every line on Monticello's steps showing in sharp detail. Finding one like that is like striking silver, literally. So why do collectors go crazy for this coin? It's a combination of historical significance, unique wartime composition, rare minting errors, and the thrill of the hunt. It represents a moment in American history where even small coins had a big part to play. And with silver in its core, it's already more valuable than your average pocket change. Now, if you're wondering just how much this little coin could be worth, here it is. A 1943 Jefferson nickel, with a rare error, in pristine uncirculated condition, has been known to sell for $65,000. Yes, you heard that right. $65,000. For a nickel. So, grab your coin jars, dig through those old collections, and keep your eyes peeled. You never know when a piece of everyday change might turn into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Today, we're digging deep into a coin that millions of Americans have held in their hands, but only a select few know just how valuable it can truly be. That's right, we're talking about the 1964 Jefferson Nickel. Now, don't let its common look fool you. At first glance, it might seem like any other nickel you'd find rattling around in your change jar. But what if I told you that there are certain 1964 nickels out there that could be worth a life-changing amount of money? Intrigued? You should be. Because the value of one small 5-cent piece could surprise you beyond belief, especially if yours has the right kind of flaw. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for, and just how much one of these special nickels might fetch in today's collector market. Let's start with a little context. The year 1964 was a massive one for U.S. coin production. In response to a nationwide coin shortage, the U.S. Mint produced an incredible number of Jefferson nickels, over 2.8 billion in total. That's billion with a B. Most of these were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, and the coins from that year do not carry a mint mark unless they're from Denver, which have a small d on the right side of Monticello. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because so many of these coins were produced, most of them are considered common, unless you happen to find one with a rare error or in exceptional condition. And that's what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Collectors and experts pay close attention to key errors and variations, and the 1964 Jefferson nickel has a few that are absolute gold mines for numismatists. One of the most valuable error types is the full steps variety. These coins show crisp, clean detail on the steps of Monticello, Jefferson's home, on the reverse side of the coin. Due to weak strikes and worn dies, most nickels from 1964 lack these full step details. But if you find one with 5 or 6 full steps, and especially one that grades MS66 or higher, that's when serious money starts coming into play. Another rare variety is the 1964 proof-like nickel, which looks like a mirror-finished proof coin but was not struck as a proof. These were accidental strikes with unusually polished dies, creating a high luster, brilliant finish. These proof-like coins are extremely scarce and highly desirable. Then there's the holy grail for some collectors, mint errors. I'm talking about double die obverse, die breaks, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and repunched mint marks. These are the kinds of mistakes the mint didn't catch before the coins went into circulation. And while they're errors, in the world of collecting, that makes them incredibly valuable. One specific error to look out for is the double die, where the date or letters like, "In God We Trust," appear slightly doubled. These small details can dramatically raise a coin's value. Imagine owning a nickel where one tiny flaw sets it apart from millions of others, and turns it into a collector's dream. Let's not forget condition. If your 1964 nickel is worn and scratched, it's probably only worth face value. But a coin that has never been used, that's been preserved in mint state condition, especially with a grade of MS66 or above, is a different story altogether. Combine that with a full step strike or a rare mint error, and now we're talking serious collector money. You see, in the world of coins, rarity isn't always about how many were made, it's about how many have survived in perfect or unusual form. So, maybe you've got an old jar of change sitting in a drawer. Maybe your grandparents gave you a little pouch of coins they saved decades ago. Maybe you picked up a Jefferson nickel just because it looked a little shinier than the rest. Well, now you know exactly what to look for. Because hiding among those common nickels could be something truly rare. Something that only a trained eye would recognize, and something a serious collector would pay big money to own. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. A rare 1964 Jefferson nickel, in pristine mint state condition, with full steps and the right minting error, has been known to sell for an astonishing $53,000. Yes, you heard that right. $53,000. For a 5-cent coin. So take a second look at that nickel in your hand. It might not just be spare change, it might be a piece of history, a collector's dream, and potentially, your next big payday. Today, we're diving into the mystery and magic of the 1975 Jefferson nickel. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, it's just a nickel from the 70s, how special could it be? Well, hold on tight, because the answer might just blow your mind. The 1975 Jefferson nickel isn't just a coin, it's a time capsule, a hidden treasure, and in some cases, an incredibly rare piece that collectors are willing to pay thousands for. Let's set the scene. The mid-1970s were a transitional time in America. The country was emerging from the Vietnam War, dealing with political scandals, and facing economic changes. Meanwhile, the U.S. Mint was churning out millions of coins to keep up with everyday commerce. Among them were the 1975 Jefferson Nickels, produced at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. On the surface, they look just like any other Jefferson nickel, Thomas Jefferson's proud profile on the front, and his famous home, Monticello, on the reverse. But what makes this coin stand out isn't just its design, it's what went wrong during the minting process that has collectors talking, because in the world of coin collecting, imperfections are perfection. Let's talk about errors, the kind that turn an everyday coin into a rare and valuable find. Some 1975 Jefferson nickels left the mint with incredible striking errors. We're talking about double die errors, where letters or numbers on the coin appear slightly doubled. Imagine looking at the word Liberty or the date 1975 and noticing a shadowed second image behind the letters. That's not your eyes playing tricks on you, that's a potential jackpot. Other rare errors include off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't properly aligned during minting. These coins come out with parts of the design missing or shifted, and the more dramatic the error, especially while keeping the date visible, the higher the value. Another type collectors love is the clipped planchet, where a small piece of the coin is literally missing due to a mistake in the cutting process. These odd-looking nickels are incredibly rare, and when paired with a visible date like 1975, they can fetch a premium. And then there's the full steps variety. If you flip the coin over and look closely at Monticello, focus on the steps leading up to the building. Most coins are too weakly struck to show them clearly. But if your 1975 nickel has 5 or 6 distinct steps, all perfectly visible without wear, then congratulations, you've got a full steps Jefferson nickel. And collectors absolutely love those. Now let's talk about condition. Coin collectors don't just look for rare errors, they look for perfection. A coin in mint state, that's a coin that looks like it just left the mint yesterday, is far more valuable than one that's been tossed around in pockets for decades. Combine mint state with a rare error, and that's when you start seeing numbers that really make your jaw drop. So, why is the 1975 nickel so exciting to collectors today? Because while millions were made, very few have survived in perfect condition. Even fewer have the rare errors or details that set them apart. And in a world where collectors are always hunting for that one special coin, this is a sleeper hit. It's the kind of coin that most people overlook, but a sharp-eyed collector knows exactly how valuable it can be. So here's the big question: what happens if you find one of these nickels, flawless, uncirculated, with a rare error or full steps? Well, brace yourself, because one of these special 1975 Jefferson nickels has sold for as much as $50,000. Yes. A nickel worth $50,000. So the next time you get change at the store, or you go digging through an old piggy bank, take a moment to check those dates. Look closely. That ordinary coin might just be hiding something extraordinary. Today, we're exploring the secrets behind the 1973 Jefferson nickel, a coin that's easy to overlook but hard to forget once you discover what it's capable of. So don't blink, don't skip ahead, because you might just learn something that turns your everyday change into extraordinary treasure. Let's take it back to 1973. America was in the middle of cultural shifts, political changes, and economic tension. The U.S. Mint, like always, was busy striking coins to keep commerce flowing. Among the billions of coins struck that year was our humble Jefferson nickel, produced in both Philadelphia and Denver, and circulating from coast to coast. At first glance, the 1973 Jefferson nickel looks pretty standard. You've got Thomas Jefferson facing left on the obverse, the word Liberty, the year 1973, and the motto, "In God We Trust." Flip it over, and there's Monticello, Jefferson's grand estate, centered with the words, E pluribus unum, and United States of America, surrounding it. But here's the twist: hidden among these everyday nickels are ultra-rare varieties and minting errors that are worth far more than anyone could guess. Let's talk about what makes certain 1973 Jefferson nickels so valuable. First off, we have full steps varieties. These are the holy grail for Jefferson nickel collectors. When you look at Monticello on the reverse side, focus on the steps. Most nickels don't show them clearly due to worn dies or weak strikes. But a small number of 1,973 nickels were struck with such sharp detail that you can count all 5 or 6 steps, crystal clear. This is what collectors call a full steps strike, and finding one is like striking gold. Now let's move on to errors, and this is where things get really exciting. Point 1 of the most sought after errors is the double die obverse. That's when the coin was struck more than once slightly out of alignment, causing doubling in the design. Look closely at the words, Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date, 1973. If you see shadow-like doubling on the letters or numbers, you're possibly holding a rare treasure. Next up, we have off-center strikes. These are dramatic minting errors where the design was misaligned during the strike. If you've ever seen a coin where part of the design is shifted or missing on one edge, that's an off-center strike. The more off-center it is, especially while keeping the date visible, the more desirable it becomes. Another rare type is the clipped planchet error. That's when a portion of the coin was accidentally cut off during production. It results in a visible bite out of the edge of the coin. These mistakes are rare and instantly catch a collector's eye. And don't forget the repunched mint marks, those tiny D marks on the reverse side of Denver minted nickels that were sometimes struck twice or at the wrong angle. These little details can lead to big surprises when it comes to value, but even without a dramatic error, a 1973 Jefferson nickel in perfect mint state condition, I'm talking about a coin that's never been in circulation, shiny and untouched, can be worth far more than you'd expect. And if it has full steps or an error on top of that condition? Now you're entering elite collector territory. You see, the value of a coin isn't always about how rare it is in terms of mintage numbers. It's about how few of them survived in pristine condition or with unique features that make them one of a kind, and here's what makes this journey so thrilling. You don't have to be a professional numismatist to find one. You could stumble upon one of these in an old coin jar, at a garage sale, or sitting in a forgotten drawer. Now, after all this talk about rarity, condition, and errors, you're probably wondering, how much could one of these special 1973 Jefferson nickels actually be worth? Well, get ready, because a flawless 1973 Jefferson nickel, with the right error, struck in high-grade condition and showing full steps, has been valued and sold for as much as $52,000. Yes, you heard that right. $52,000, for a 5-cent coin. So the next time you go through your change, slow down. Look closely. You might be holding onto something far more valuable than you ever imagined. Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating and misunderstood coins in American pocket change, a simple nickel that has shocked collectors with its hidden value. We're talking about the 1964 Jefferson nickel. Now I know what you're thinking. 1964. That's not that old. You've probably seen one before. Maybe you even have a few lying around in a drawer or a coin jar somewhere. But what if I told you that this seemingly ordinary 5-cent piece could be worth more than some luxury cars today? Yes, you heard that right. This little coin might just be the jackpot you never knew you had, if it has the right features. So sit tight and listen closely, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what makes the 1964 Jefferson nickel so special, what rare errors to look out for, and how to tell if the nickel in your pocket could be worth a small fortune. Let's rewind the clock. The year was 1964. The Beatles were taking over America, civil rights movements were shaking the nation, and the U.S. Mint was working overtime. Why? Because there was a massive coin shortage sweeping across the country. People were hoarding silver coins, and the government needed to keep the economy moving fast. That year, the Mint produced over 2.8 billion Jefferson nickels, one of the largest production runs in the series history. That's right, billions. So how could a coin that was minted in such massive numbers be rare or valuable? It all comes down to details, condition, minting errors, and something collectors obsess over: full steps. Let's start with the basics. On the front, you've got Thomas Jefferson, America's third president. Flip it over and you'll see Monticello, his famous home in Virginia. But here's the key: look closely at the steps leading up to the building. Most coins from 1964 have soft, blurry steps. That's because the dies used to strike them were worn down from heavy use. But a small number of these nickels show 5 or 6 full steps, clean and crisp. These are called full steps Jefferson nickels, and they are incredibly rare from this year. Why? Because 1964 marked the last year that mint marks were used until 1968, and due to the rush of production, quality control wasn't exactly a top priority. Most nickels were weakly struck. So when you find a 1964 nickel with strong details and full steps, you're looking at something extremely unusual, but that's just the beginning. Let's talk about mint errors, the real treasures for collectors. Point 1: of the most desirable is the double die obverse. This is when the coin was struck twice by accident, creating a subtle but visible doubling on the letters or date. If you look at "In God We Trust" or the 1964 date and see a shadowed, doubled effect, congratulations, you may be looking at a valuable error coin. Another rare find? Off-center strikes. These happen when the coin wasn't aligned correctly during minting. Part of the design may be missing, and the coin might look lopsided, which makes it extremely attractive to collectors, especially if the date is still visible. And then there are the clipped planchet errors, where a chunk of the coin is literally missing because of a flaw during the cutting process. These are instantly recognizable and highly collectible. Don't forget about repunched mint marks either. Even though Philadelphia minted coins didn't have a mint mark in 1964, the Denver Mint did. If that little D above Monticello appears doubled or punched incorrectly, you might be holding a repunched mint mark variety, another prize for collectors. Now here's the kicker: all of this means nothing if the coin is scratched up, worn down, or damaged. Condition is everything. Collectors want mint state coins, coins that were never circulated, that still shine like the day they were struck. And the better the condition, the more valuable the coin. Put all that together: a 1964 Jefferson nickel in uncirculated condition, with full steps, and one of those rare errors? That's when things get serious. Now, here's the moment you've been waiting for. There have been examples of this exact coin, a 1964 Jefferson nickel with rare minting features and in top condition, that have been valued and sold for as much as $65,000. Yes. $65,000. For a nickel. So go check your old jars, your coin folders, that change cup in your car. That little piece of metal could be hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be discovered. If you found this video fascinating, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another chance to uncover rare and valuable coins. And hey, if you've got a 1964 Jefferson nickel, drop a comment below and tell us what you found. You might just have something incredible. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep searching, stay curious, and happy collecting.